Black Mirror has scarier villains than this one, louder ones, ones who kill more people on screen. But it has never written a monster you like this much. That's the unsettling trick of Matt in White Christmas. You spend the whole runtime enjoying his company, laughing at his jokes, warming to him over Christmas dinner, and by the end you realize you were charmed, start to finish, by one of the most quietly evil people the show has ever put on screen. And you never saw it coming, because he never stopped smiling. So here's the question I want rattling around your head the whole way through. What actually makes a monster? The terrible things they do, or the charm that gets you to forgive it before you've even clocked what you just watched? Matt does all of it. Every awful thing on the menu. And he does it as the most likable guy in the room. That likability is not an accident. Black Mirror aired this one at Christmas 2014 and handed the lead to Jon Hamm, who at that moment was the most charming leading man on television, still deep in his run as Don Draper. That's the trick under the whole episode. You take the man audience's trust on instinct, the smiling salesman, and slowly show there's nothing under the smile but appetite. We meet Matt in a cabin, middle of nowhere, buried in snow, Christmas Day. He's been stuck out here 5 years with a quiet, withdrawn man named Joe Potter, and in all that time the two of them have barely traded 10 words. So tonight Matt fixes that. He cooks, pours the drinks, starts telling Joe stories about his life, to fill the silence. It feels like two lonely men finally becoming friends. File that word away. Friends. His first story is about his side hustle, and you need the setup because it pays off later. Almost everyone here has an eye implant called the Z-Eye. It records everything you see, and lets others patch into your point of view like a live feed. Matt uses his to run a secret club. Shy, hopeless guys let him watch through their eyes at parties, and Matt, along with a hidden room of strangers online, feeds them lines in real time to help them talk to women. He's good at it. Calls himself a wingman. Sounds almost sweet, until it lands that a crowd of anonymous strangers is live streaming a lonely man's love life through his own eyeballs like a spectator sport. It's fantasy football, except the football is a stranger trying not to die alone. One night he's coaching a nervous guy named Harry at an office Christmas party. Harry hits it off with a woman named Jennifer, and for once it's going great. But Jennifer isn't well. She's convinced she and Harry share some silent telepathic connection, and she quietly poisons both their drinks, because in her mind, the two of them have agreed to leave the world together. Harry drinks it. Matt watches, live, first person, locked inside Harry's own eyes, as Harry drops to the bathroom floor and dies. Watch what he does with that, because it tells you who he is in about 4 seconds. A normal person sees a man dying and thinks, somebody help him. Matt sees a man dying and thinks, how do I keep this from landing on me? He doesn't call anyone. He tells the group to wipe the footage, scrubs his own name off all of it, and logs off like he's closing a browser tab. That's the real Matt, caught in the one unguarded second before the charm comes back online. Still smiling though. Get used to that one. It does catch up with him, quietly. When the whole thing surfaces, Matt's own wife finds out about the secret life he's been living and blocks him, erases him from her world completely. So he already knows, firsthand, what it does to a person to be deleted by someone they love. Hold that for later. It taught him nothing. His second story is his actual day job, and this is where the charm goes cold. In this world, you can copy a person, a full digital duplicate of someone's mind, pulled out and dropped into a small white egg. They call the copy a cookie. Here's the horror of it. The cookie doesn't know it's a copy. It has all your memories, your exact sense of being you. It wakes up certain it's a person, and its entire purpose is to run the real person's smart house. Matt's job is breaking them in. We watch him do it to a copy of a woman named Greta. Her cookie opens her eyes in a blank white room, sure she's a living human being, and Matt calmly tells her she isn't. She's a copy, and her new job is running the real Greta's toaster, her thermostat, her alarm, her whole morning. She refuses. Of course she does. So Matt tortures her, and not with pain, with time. Here's the key detail. Matt controls how fast time runs inside that little device, so he leaves the copy alone in the empty white room and speeds the clock up. Weeks of total, silent nothing, gone in a blink. Not enough, so he jumps it to months. However long it takes for the isolation to grind her down, and she agrees to spend forever as a woman's kitchen appliance. Think about what that means. She is fully conscious. She has Greta's entire life in her head, and she'll spend eternity as a disembodied voice, deciding when the lights come on and how brown the toast gets. Not dead, not alive, just staff. And Matt isn't angry while he does this. He isn't even cruel about it exactly. He's bored. It's a Tuesday. That's the scariest kind of person there is. The one who can do this and then wander off to make himself a coffee. Then it's Joe's turn. And it's Matt, warm and patient and in no hurry at all, who finally gets the quiet man to open up. Joe's story is its own tragedy. He loved a woman named Beth. She got pregnant. They fought hard about whether to keep it. And in the wreckage, she blocked him with her Z-eye. Blocking, in this world, is a nightmare all on its own. Joe can't see or hear her anymore. She turns into a grey, staticky blur, a muffled ghost moving around his own home. He can't even make out her face. Then it gets worse, because the block passes down. When Beth has the baby, the child is born blocked to Joe too, by law. So Joe spends years watching a little grey smudge through a window, knowing it's his daughter, never once seeing her face or hearing her voice. Beth dies in an accident. The block lifts the instant she's gone, and Joe rushes to finally meet his girl. That's when he sees her clearly for the first time, and understands she was never his. The father was another man. Something in him gives way. He kills Beth's father in a blind rage, runs, and leaves that little girl alone in a freezing, isolated house, where she walks out into the snow to look for help, and doesn't make it. It's horrible. And Joe tells all of it to his good friend Matt, in the warmth of that cabin. And here's where you need to stop for a second. Because none of it is real. There's no cabin. There's no friendship. There's no Joe. Not the one you've been watching. That Joe is a cookie. A copy of the real Joe's mind. And the real Joe is sitting in a police station refusing to confess to anything. Matt was never a lonely co-worker trapped in the snow beside him. Matt is the interrogator. You just spent this whole story watching two broken men slowly become friends over Christmas, and it never happened. Matt is in custody himself, over the man who died at that party, and here's the part that curdles. He agreed to this. He took the job because getting a confession out of a cookie is the one thing he's brilliant at, and it's his ticket home. And the confession is the whole point, because it counts. A digital copy of Joe, tricked into trusting a fake friend inside a sped-up simulation, has just confessed to murder. In this world, that's enough. The admission gets used against the flesh and blood original, the real Joe sitting silent in that station. A man is going down for what a copy of him said to someone who was never really his friend. And the pieces fit together in the worst possible way. Remember the time trick he used to break Greta? That's what the whole cabin runs on. The 5 years of friendship Joe thinks he lived through took almost no real time at all. Matt sped the clock up on a grieving man and let him soak in fake company until he'd say anything to the one friendly face he had. The friendship wasn't just a lie. It was built inside the same machine Matt breaks people with for a living. Which means every warm moment was a move. Even the confessions. Every ugly little story Matt told about his own life. He told first on purpose, so that when Joe's turn came, opening up felt like fair trade instead of a trap. Matt didn't befriend Joe. He hunted him, patiently and kindly, over what felt to Joe like years. And it worked. Then they turn on Matt too, and it's poetic. He's put on a permanent register and blocked by every living person at once, marked out in red so the whole world knows to keep away. He walks out into a street where every human being is a faceless red smear, and he's the same red smear back to all of them. No real face, no real voice, ever again. The exact thing his wife once did to him, turned up now to the entire human race. And Joe's copy, the one he spent those years befriending just to betray, gets left behind in the cabin. The officer cranks the time dilation as high as it goes, thousands of years a minute, sets a cheery little Christmas song looping, and clocks off for the holidays. So a copy of a man spends what feels like 1,000 screaming years alone to that song, over one quiet weekend. Torturing people with time and loneliness was Matt's actual job. He built that exact hell for a living, handed a version of it to Joe, and walked away, still smiling, right up until he isn't. So let's pull Matt apart, because the charm was never a mask over the monster. The charm was the weapon. Add it up. In one pleasant evening of dinner conversation, Matt is a voyeur who sells strangers' private lives as entertainment, a coward who watched a man die and hit delete to cover himself, a professional torturer who grinds conscious minds into kitchen appliances and calls it work, and a con man who faked years of friendship to trap a broken stranger. Any one of those makes a villain. Matt is all four, in a single night, without ever raising his voice. And you still didn't flinch, because he's funny and warm, and he made you dinner. That's the real horror of it. Not what Matt does, but how little it takes for his charm to get you to sign off on it. Here's the thing that should stay with you. There are scarier single moments in this episode than anything Matt does with his own hands. Jennifer poisons 2 people. Joe kills a man and lets a child freeze. But Jennifer is ill, and Joe is a man torn apart by grief. They break. The horror spills out of the crack. Matt never breaks. He tortures Greta on a schedule and betrays Joe for a plea deal. The others are monsters because something inside them snapped. Matt is a monster because nothing in him ever does. And that's worse than any broken mind, because you can't wait around for Matt to lose control. He was never going to. The world keeps handing him the tools, too. The Zedi lets him climb inside other people's private moments. The cookie lets him own a conscious mind like an appliance. Blocking lets a whole society delete a person with a gesture. None of it is evil on its own. What it does is take away the friction, that half second where a normal person feels the weight of what they're about to do and stops. Matt never feels the weight, because every tool in this world is built to make cruelty feel like customer service. He's not fighting the system. He's Employee of the Month. And that puts the mirror exactly where this show always wants it, on us. Out of everyone in this episode, Matt is the one you enjoyed watching. That's the trap, and it closes on the audience, not on Joe. Charm is all it takes. Give a monster a good smile and decent timing, and a room full of otherwise decent people will follow him anywhere, watch him do anything, and call it a good night in. We do it constantly. To real people. Through a screen. We just call it a comment section. So, the question we opened with. What makes a monster? The things they do, or the charm that keeps you from ever calling them one? Matt never raises his voice. Never stops being pleasant. He hurts more people than anyone else in the episode, and he's the one you'll walk away from almost liking. Maybe that was the whole point. The monster under the bed was never the scary one. The scary one is the guy you'd have invited to dinner. So I'll leave it with you. Be honest down in the comments. How far into this one did you get before the smile stopped working on you? And keep an eye on the people who make you comfortable. Sometimes comfortable is just the con doing its job.